Yes, members of the council, I'm Haywood Martin. I reside in Council District 6. A number of us have been discussing some of the possible options for electric power. That is the future of electric power in Lafayette. We understand where we're at now. We understand the cost relationships that have been considered to arrive at our current situation. What we'd like to look at is the future for Lafayette. We've got a great community here that has in many ways is looking at the future, and fiber to home is just one example of that. But we want to talk about getting off of coal. Coal is an outdated, unhealthy, inefficient, and environmentally extremely damaging technology that many communities are moving away from around the country. We ought to be looking for ways to move away from coal, just for the future of Lafayette. And there are options. A part of our problem is that we've not been included in this process. We think that the community should have a say in an $88 million investment that locks us into coal for 19 years. We think that the community ought to be involved in developing possible options and consensus around some things that we might want to do to move away from dirty coal in the future. We could have had a local study group. We could have had an independent study. I have the utmost respect for Terry Uval and his Lafayette Utility Service, but I think we deserve an independent look-see from experts around the country who've done different types of power arrangements for communities. I think we owe that to ourselves, because rather than just sticking ourselves into a one-track situation with dirty coal, we could be looking at options which include renewable, which include solar, which include wind, which include efficiencies, which include high-efficiency gas turbines. I do think that if they can do solar in Germany, and I was stationed for 2 years in Germany, I know it's cloudy most every day there. If they can do it there, we can do it here. If we can do, wind is being done in many very interesting and challenging locations around the world. I don't think the question is whether we want to go all solar or all wind, but we think a hybrid balance. You think of a hybrid car which has gasoline engine to operate when that's needed and electric to operate when that's appropriate. We could have a hybrid system that includes renewable fuels, including solar, wind, and gas turbines that can be operated fairly quickly and whose capital cost is relatively low compared to the capital cost of building coal-fired power. We just think we ought to be considering these options for the future of Lafayette. So I'm standing in opposition to this ordinance. I think you ought to give us time to do some independent study and to develop a community consensus around where we want to go with the future of electric power in Lafayette. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Dugas, next speaker, please.
M. Broussard.
Good evening. My name is Marshall Broussard. I reside in District 9. I want to thank the council for the opportunity to speak this evening. All we're asking for is some time to study the issue. While I also have a great deal of respect for Terry Uval, I don't think the issue is entirely economic. We really need to start looking at efficiency, and we all know that there are more efficient ways to generate power than with coal-fired, ancient coal-fired plants. So that's all we're asking for is for time to get this together, perhaps with a commission. And all we're asking for is, or that is all I'm asking for, I don't know what everybody else is asking, a month or two just to consider the alternatives in light of the dangers regarding coal power and the efficiencies that can be gathered from other mixes of alternatives. And that's where we stand. Have any of the council, for example, ever heard of combined cycle natural gas generators? Do we know what we're talking about? In other words, I think there are a lot of things we can address and talk to and speak to in regard of not just economics, but efficiency and public safety. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Dugas, next speaker, please.
Sarah Shuffler.
I'm Sarah Shuffler. I'm in District 4. I would like for you also to consider giving us some time to do some research on the future of our Lafayette utilities. I think that we've got a lot of issues to look at. I think renewable is something that is just going all over the world, and we are getting left behind in the United States. We need to not continue to keep ourselves to a bond issue of $88 million that keeps us in coal-fired plants, a backwards way of continuing to do our utilities. If we can just get some time from you to, maybe you would set up the Blue Ribbon Committee of people to research some of this, that we need to look at that. We need to quit bringing 138 boxcars of coal into our communities every day to operate a coal-fired plant. When we've got those type of resources here, natural gas, we've got wind, we've got sun, we've got the way to look at efficient energy. So we're just asking you to give us a chance. Let's look at this and see what we can come up with. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilman Bertrand.
I'll reserve my comments until everybody's finished.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Dugas, next speaker, please.
William Young.
Hello, my name is William Young. I called Bill most of the time. I'm from District 6. And I would like to ask you to vote against the ordinance to give time for our citizens like myself a chance to contribute to the dialogue regarding the future of Lafayette energy needs. I appreciate this opportunity to have my voice heard. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Dugas, next speaker.
Harold Shuffler.
First of all, thank you for allowing us to be here. We don't come to you misinformed or ill-informed. Terry came to a Sierra Club meeting 2 weeks ago, gave an excellent presentation, and pointed out how fortunate Lafayette is to have an excellent, well-run utility system. And that system has been running for 116 years. And it was that system that allowed us to have a college in Lafayette, in 1898, because the leaders of this community has the wisdom to know the importance of being able to self-generate electricity. And that put us ahead of Franklin and Abbeville and all that to get this college here, which made a lot of difference in Lafayette. And it's been excellently well run for all that time. However, we're at a new turning point. The world is changing. The world of coal is changing. In the last 2 years, coal generation has gone from 51% across the nation to 39%. It's dropping like a rock. Coal production in Wyoming, where our coal comes from, has dropped 35% in the last year. Coal-fired plants in Pennsylvania, some of the largest in the country, are being shut down now. They're in the middle of the coal country. And it all turns on the issue of cost. We're in for a wild ride. The cost items that we're dealing with, this first $88 million, is just dealing with several pollutants coming out of the smokestacks. There's a lot more to come. One of the biggest issues is radioactive materials that come out of the smokestacks. You start dealing with this issue, you're talking about 88 million won't touch it. And that radioactive material is not only in the emissions, but it's in the ash. We have three big expense items that's going to come our way. Those three are the emissions. That's the first $88 million upgrade. A lot more to come. As items are identified, sulfur and so forth has to be taken out. There'll be millions of costs dealing with each. When you get with radioactive emissions, that cost goes out the roof. And the next big issue is waste. Right now, that waste is not For every 5 boxcars you put into the plant, you get 1 back as waste. That's not classified as hazardous. If it's classified as hazardous, by my estimation, if we can get rid of it at $900 a ton, Lafayette's share will be $7 million a month. You got another big issue. Now, if you class it as radioactive waste, you multiply that times 10. Is it radioactive? No doubt. It's absolutely radioactive. It's so radioactive that when they made cinder blocks using ash as a fill with the concrete, they noticed the cinder blocks were glowing in the dark. They put a Geiger counter to it, it went off the chart. So these things are enormous costs. Now the next big item, and this is carbon caps. Coal emits about 12 tons of carbon per megawatt hour. Single cycle gas is at 0.9 tons. That's the standard. You either have to upgrade the efficiency of your coal operation to meet that gas standard or buy carbon credits. There's a company out of St. Louis has already arranged, making contractual arrangements for 200,000 acres of marsh in Vermilion Parish to deal with this one issue. It all turns on whether Obama's going to get reelected or not. If he gets reelected, carbon caps is coming for coal, and the price is astronomical. By my guesstimate, our share cost of that is $15 million a month to buy the carbon credits we need to deal with. So we're in for a wild ride. We do have great options. Natural gas, we're already running 370 megawatts of natural gas. We need 425 megawatts peak power. For 88 million, we can buy 100 megawatts of natural gas combined cycle turbines. I have the numbers, I have the figures, because we are designing and working on hybrid systems that both wind and combined cycle natural gas. So there are opportunities. All we ask for is, as we did with recycling in Lafayette and the sewer system, many years ago, the Sierra Club worked with a Blue Ribbon Commissions appointed by the mayor and whoever to really take time to look
Hang on,
at
Mr. Scheffler.
Yes, sir.
You're out of town, but there is a council member that would like to address you.
Sure.
Councilman Boudreaux.
Mr. Scheffler, I was following along, and when you mentioned President Obama getting reelected, we're going to have to buy carbon credits, you said?
That is a commitment of the administration right now. The current administration is looking at carbon caps for coal generation.
CAPS, caps?
Yeah, carbon maximums. It's just a carbon, and it all deals with global warming. And I don't know if a Republican president would do the same. I can't say that, but I know the administration is committed to that. And there's a lot of folks betting a lot of money on it because they've spent a lot of time in Vermilion Parish making arrangements to buy carbon sequestration rights on marshlands. Vermilion Corporation, Audubon, the McElhaney, all those people, and the Vermilion Parish School Board is selling those rights.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Scheffler. Ms. Dugas, next speaker.
Michael Van Etten. Pardon? Okay. Archibald Hill.
Hello, I'm Archibald G. Hill. I reside in District 7, and Councilman Donald Bertrand is my council member. I'm addressing you on this bond issue that we're looking at here about the 88 million. I oppose it, and I request your delay of a month or more to consider other options. Director Huval said that this was your only prudent solution. It is for you in this room. It is for those voting the next couple of elections, but it's not the only prudent solution for our children and grandchildren who are going to have to live with the consequences of climate change, and that economics has not been put in this equation. The $150 million that we're getting ready to spend is like doubling down on a fully depreciated plant that's 30 years old. The value we're putting in is worth more than what the plant's worth now. I propose some out-of-the-box thinking on this issue. I believe a rational alternative to be investigated is an ocean-going, barge-mounted nuclear power station. The Russians are now developing a class of these vessels. The keel of the academic Lomonosov, the first vessel of this class, was laid on April 15, 2007. The academic Lomonosov was launched on June 30, 2010. It will be deployed at Vilichinsk in the Kamchatka Peninsula of Russia's Far East. It is expected to be delivered at the end of 2013. The reactors on this first barge are derived from models used on icebreaker vessels and will produce 70 megawatts at a projected U.S. cost of $336 million. The construction firm Rosatom has considered larger reactors for these vessels. The MH-1A was actually the first floating nuclear power station built by Martin Marietta for use by the U.S. Army in the early 1960s. The reactor was installed in a converted Liberty ship hull and used by the Army from 1968 to 1975 in the Panama Canal Zone. In late 1981, a U.S. firm, Westinghouse, had received NRC approval to build as many as 8 offshore nuclear power stations, but no utilities were interested. I agree with Professor James Lovelock, originator of the Gaia theory, in his 2004 statement, "Nuclear energy is the only green solution." Climate change is our most formidable environmental problem that can no longer be ignored. Instead of investing $88 million on a 30-year-old coal-fired power plant and locking Lafayette into a coal-dependent future for the next 20 years, please take the time to consider all the alternatives. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Dugas, next speaker.
Ann Burris.
Hi, I'm Ann Burris, and I live in District 3. Thank you for an opportunity to speak. I just found out about this today, and simply put, I think there just needs to be a lot more citizen awareness and opportunity for input on this issue. I spent some time on my phone looking for coverage in the local media, and I searched the advertiser site, and I just found one article on September 12th, and it was just a general article, didn't mention this hearing or this specific issue before us today. Coal may look like the cheap option now, but I'm very concerned about what's going to happen over the next 19 years. There's so much that we don't know. Coal could become much more expensive. The demand for it is going up around the world. Transportation of coal halfway across the country to get it here from Wyoming or wherever we get it could become much more expensive. There could be a carbon tax enacted. It's been discussed broadly because we do need to begin to look at greener and cleaner ways to get our energy. So with all those unknowns, how do we know that coal is going to remain so inexpensive? The advertiser article that I looked at mentioned something that Terry Huval himself said, that it would be about half as expensive to convert that Rodemacker plant to a gas-fired plant. That's half as expensive. $88 million for this upgrade to the coal, $44 to convert it to gas. So we need to think about that, and I think the public needs a lot more input on this subject. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Dugas, next speaker, please.
We had 3 individuals signed in, did not wish to speak, but oppose the ordinance.
Councilman Bertrand.
Mr. Huval, could you step up again, please? You've had an opportunity to hear some of the comments from the public, and I just wanted to know if you had anything additional you might want to say before I make a few comments.
Not very much. I guess the only thing I can think of is the last comment about the converting the plant to natural gas. That was always an option we had available to us, and it would be a cheaper option. The problem is then we take our generation portfolio from being 60% coal and the rest something else to 100% natural gas. And if you take a look at what's happened to the price of natural gas during times of when hurricanes come into the Gulf, during times when there's still questions about the whole idea of shale drilling and how that might affect water tables and whatever other concerns other folks might have. So we don't know how long we'll have natural gas prices at what we're seeing them at today. If we knew for sure natural gas prices would stay lower than what they are today, then that'd be a different issue, but we don't know that. In fact, history has shown us, and if you take a look at it, even though the last 8 years, you'll see coal prices have stayed pretty stable and have increased very slightly, even with rail transportation prices haven't gone up, whereas natural gas prices have gone the gamut of up and down and up and down and up and down, with mainly being up. So when we take a look at these kind of things, we don't look at it in just within our own organization. We try and bring the best experts that we can get who are doing this for other companies, who are looking at what the same laws that we're looking at what the same perspectives going forward, and we're making what we think is the most informed decision and recommendation to you. So our, I've heard the arguments out there, but I think that we've done our due diligence on this, and we're ready to move forward, and we think the time is of the essence for us to do so.
Thank you, and I just wanted to add some of the experts that Mr. Uval is talking about is, in addition to others, is the American Public Power Association, of which we are a member. And I serve on a policymaking body of that APPA. And we see every year not only the policies of the EPA that force issues for all different types of power providers, not just coal providers, but also hydroelectric and others. And even those areas of the country who are using alternative energy sources, wind and solar, in particular on the West Coast, are doing so right now at a more expensive proposition to their customers. Because what's happening is those forms of energies are being forced to be sold first at a supported price at the same time when hydroelectric power is being produced, and companies are actually running water over the dams and not collecting that power in the western part of the country. Wind power is being supported artificially on the West Coast to the detriment of cheaper energy sources. Now, is that a bad thing or is that a good thing? For those of you that say that we need to get our carbon emissions down, it may be a good thing. I don't think our carbon emissions in this state are that big a problem yet, and I think in time we probably will be using some other sources. And it may be nuclear at some time. I don't think, given where we are today and with the economics of energy in the state of Louisiana, we're willing to make that change overnight. But what we have found over the last couple of years, and I think Mr. Huval probably can tell me if I'm wrong anyway, we have deadlines to meet the EPA regulations. And if we don't act accordingly, the expense to our community is greater than the investment we make today. It would be nice if we could turn everything over to completely renewable resources, but we would do so at a cost. And the cost would be the regularity of the power that we all demand at a cost that we can all afford. and we can study all the different forms of energy that there are, and we can employ as many of them as we can, but we can't do them in the amount of time and with regularity, other than maybe nuclear, to provide the power that we need, that we're providing now to our customers. So, Mr. Huval, anything else?
No, sir.
Thank you very much.
Hang on, Mr. Huval. Councilman Andy Nakkan.
Mr. Huval, in relation to if we were to try to convert to natural gas, the time frame in doing that would be what, sir? I mean, you're talking 60% of our source of electricity.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we could, you know, I'm not saying we couldn't get it done in the time frame, but we'd also have to have agreement with our other two partners.
Okay.
Okay,
Right.
and that adds an extra complicating factor.
Exactly.
And in their cases, I know in one particular partner's case, they have been placed with a lot of pressure on them to get off of having so much natural gas. Their utility rates, I'll be a little bit more frank, CLECO has had some of the highest utility rates in the state for some time, and they've been working really hard to use other sources of energy. They've got a new petcoke fueled generating unit that they built, but they're highly reliant on natural gas, which is why their rates have been so high. So they're under pressure to diversify. So the idea of adding more natural gas to their portfolio is something that they would be, you know, frankly opposed, and LIPA is also. So, you know, what we've done here is we've tried to take, you know, all of the factors involved, including a lot of things that people mentioned here this evening, and try and look at what's the smartest, what's the best thing for us to do going forward based on what we know today, and we believe this is the best direction to take. Will we use combined cycle natural gas in the future? I think that is indeed going to be the case. I mean, we have natural gas units now that date back to 1964. They're still running and they're still operable, but the efficiency of those units is different than what you can get off a combined cycle unit. And down the road, we're going to be looking at doing that. But for where we stand today with the reliance, with the generation portfolio we have, this is the wisest move for us to make.
Okay. And out of curiosity, the prices we have today on our utilities, which are reasonable, pretty much are guaranteed or given to us through the use of coal. That helps to keep our prices stable. Am I correct?
There's no doubt that coal has been the biggest contributor to the stability of prices that we have.
So I'm correct in saying that we have a big savings due to the use of coal.
Yes, sir.
Through Roadmaker. Okay, so that has definitely helped people in this area on fixed incomes. Second question I had regarding coal was, this is news to me regarding the radioactivity of coal. Do you have any problems at the plant with that? I'm unfamiliar with this.
Well, anytime that you're going to take something out the ground, you're going to have some radioactive elements in it. May be very small, and some of them may be much higher. Of all the discussions that we've had, I've heard that mentioned very briefly. Not that it was just being downplayed, but that it is not a big factor.
Are there any health hazards at the plant due to this radioactivity?
I guess that can be some alleged, but I don't know of anything that has been proven.
Nothing that's been proven. Mr. Uval, that's all I have for right now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Terrio.
A couple of questions is that there was a mention that after the 88 million here that's being allocated for the Rodemarker plant, that there were going to be additional monies that are going to be needed in the future. Have you had any meetings or discussions that would imply that you're going to be coming back to us for millions more dollars here in the future?
No, sir, I don't have any plans or any, indications as to what that might be. Now, laws change, and when laws change, it could mean that everybody has to buy a brand-new automobile because the old automobiles are emitting too much of a discharge into the atmosphere. We don't know what that's going to be. So what we've tried to do is to assess, based on the best, we can't predict the future, but based on the best information we have available to us, we think that this $88 million investment is going to serve us well for years to come. We don't know of anything that's going to be coming down the pike that could increase that.
Okay. With the 88 million that we have here, naturally, most businesses, I'm sure you guys would probably have thought of this before we have, is that in the event there were some mandatory changes that would come in the future, the flexibility of the Rodemacher plant could be, the conversion of natural gas could still happen in that time frame. Am I correct?
Sir. Yes, sir. I mean, if we decide at some point 3 years from now, 4 years from now, that, because of new environmental requirements that we need to convert to natural gas, then we can still do that. It's still a matter of you make a, we could make a decision now, and everybody would say, well, that's great, we're saving money. But the consequences to the customer in the long term are completely unpredictable. And if we look at what history has shown us in just the last half a dozen years, we will see that people who have utility bills today of $100, it wouldn't be surprising that they would see those same bills become $250 or $300 if we were all natural gas. Because then you put all your eggs in one basket, and when the price of natural gas goes up, there's no other place to go.
Combination of both. Do you foresee us having any problems getting a coal supply from Wyoming?
No,
I think I heard something.
I do not.
So current supplies and transportation distribution lines are open and fine with that?
Very ample supplies. We have transportation route that's been solid. We have arrangements with the railroad companies. I mean, they increase our rates. I'm not happy with that, but when you look in the big order of things, it still is the most cost-effective plant for us to operate.
Okay. And I think I heard that about a week or so ago, you had gone and given a presentation, I believe, to a number of individuals this year.
Yeah, well, Mr. Scheffler commented I had gone to the Sierra Club and by their invitation to speak to them about various issues related to energy going into the future, and I discussed, in fact, I pulled a lot of the slides that I gave this council during budget time to kind of illustrate, why we felt that making these improvements were the right place to be.
Okay, and that was about a week ago. And today, I think for the first time, I've received 3 communications that were asking us to defer this. So it happened a week ago, but yet today, I think, and many other council members, from what I understand, received communications today to defer it. And in your opinion, you're saying because of the time-sensitive nature of this, that requirements and mandatory requirements wouldn't, I guess, provide that we move ahead full speed to see if we can get this taken care of in that time.
Yes, sir, I do believe that. And as I pointed out in my initial remarks to you, is that, this is not something we just started discussing several weeks ago. It's something we started at least a year, maybe a year and a half ago, bringing this up and talking about what the cost would be and having the press give it considerable coverage. So this is something that, whether, I can't control when it hits people's ears, but but it is something that has been given a lot of coverage because we wanted it to be that way. We wanted to be able to provide information to this council and to the public as to what we're facing and what the costs might be, and and as things stand, what we predicted about a year or so ago as to what we thought it might be is pretty close to where we are today.
Huval, that's all I have. Thank you, sir. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Boudreaux.
Terry, you touched on it, and I guess my question was, as it relates to the other 2 co-owners of the facility, have there been any indications or have they taken a position on what direction they would like to go? I did hear you mention that CLECO is being encouraged to get away from some of their natural gas.
Right.
Have they taken their position? Have they taken the necessary action to prepare for this?
Yes. Yes, they're moving forward with that in both their organizations. CLECO's made the commitment, this is where they want to move, and LIPA, if not having made the commitment, is on their way to doing so. So this is something that we believe together, this is the right thing to do.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Stanley, can I put in a request to the administration, please? There was a number of times that it was mentioned about the engagement. Could you get with the that's all I have for you yet, Terry. Thank you. With the contract and facilitator for the comprehensive plan, I know they had a number of community meetings and they address a very broad spectrum of things. And they have started compiling that information. I know we should have a report coming to us shortly, but if at all possible, like on an ASAP basis, could you provide, I'm asking for the entire council, if there were any indicators during those public hearings where they went throughout Lafayette Parish, if there was any discussion of power generation and how we go forward, if there was anything that came up as the future of Lafayette and how we want to see Lafayette in 20 or 30 years. Could you see if there's anything they could pull for us to see the level of interest that came out of those meetings as well, please? I would like to see that.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's all, Mr.
That's
Boudreaux?
all I have, sir.
Thank you, sir. Seeing no other council members for discussions, Janet, please call the roll on the ordinance as amended.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5.
Yes.
District 6.
Yes.
District 7,
Yes.
District 8,
Yes.
District 9.
Yes.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2. And District 3. The ordinance as amended is approved.
This meeting's adjourned. I'd like to open up a special meeting. This is a public hearing. Blue cards are available for anyone in the foyer. The 5-minute rule is in effect. Janet, please read the ordinance.
Ordinance 228, 2012, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council temporarily changing the polling location of Precinct 72 from the University Student Union, 600 McKinley Street Student Union Building, to Lafayette Consolidated Government Building, 705 West University Avenue, for the November 6, 2012 and the December 8, 2012 elections, as authorized and in accordance with the applicable provisions of the Louisiana Election Code, Louisiana Revised Statute 18-1, et sec.
I have a motion by Councilman Bertrand, second by Councilman Andy Nakhan. Seeing no council discussion, Ms. Dugas, any blue cards? Janet, please call for the vote.
District 5.
Yes.
District 6.
Yes.
District 7. District 8.
Yes.
District 9.
Yes.
District 1.
Yes.
District 2.
Yes.
District 3.
I had plans.
District 4.
Yes.
The motion is approved.
This meeting's adjourned.